Oh, God. I was trying to think of an opening for this episode. And this is the first episode I've put a lot of work into in a while because it's the first time I've had time to put a lot of episodes.
Right, yeah, because your work has been largely killing you, and that's why you weren't able to. Well, and also, to be fair, some of the movies we've covered lately have not really given you much stuff that you felt enthusiastic about working with. See The Mummy 2017.
God. Yeah, there really wasn't that much to dig into that.
No, that movie fucking sucked.
I'm enjoying Paul Verhoeven Month.
Yes.
I liked doing Starship Troopers and then following that up with Showgirls.
It's fascinating. It's genuinely a fascinating case study at jumping between those two.
Because like he still has this. It's still a Verhoeven movie. Like it's
still very much so. Yeah.
And my brain was like, oh, why don't you talk about the times you've been a woman? And I don't know why my brain was. I had to like really think about why my brain made that jump. And I think it's because of the midnight show. So Showgirls has gone on to become a midnight show.
That
movie.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And it is very common for people to dress up in drag as the characters because it's basically already that.
I bet there's some real good versions of Mama out there. Just
I can't wait to talk about Mama. She's my favorite.
I knew she would be.
Yeah. God, her and the I don't know what his position was, if he was like a stage manager or like a choreographer, but he's the one that's like thrust it.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, he was amazing. I loved it.
Yeah, Again, we'll get to it.
That guy, I believe, actually is like involved in shows on that level.
He was too good at that to not actually have that job at one point.
Mm-hmm.
I know I've did some research on him, but I know he's basically a character actor.
Sure.
So the first time I was a woman was when I was in the 6th grade. I knew I wanted to be a performer at that point.
Okay.
But there was very little opportunity for a 6th grader to be in a performance.
Sure.
So
and especially for a 6th grade boy in Altoona to be a woman. I mean,
right.
Few and far between opportunities there.
God, there's a videotape. It may or may not still exist of this performance.
Oh my God.
The music teacher's like, hey, so at the end of the year, we're going to do a bunch of songs for the... Fuck, I just remembered we did an R. Kelly song. We also...
Now that figures, actually, yeah. Was it I Believe I Can Fly?
Oh, yeah.
Of course it was, yeah.
We also did...
I doubt they were going to have you doing the remix to Ignition. Actually, I don't think it was out yet at that point. No, regardless,
but we could have. It was out. No, the music teacher was like, "Hey, we need a boy to do this female part," and because it was Altoona, and we didn't have any sense of how offensive this could be, I was a Jamaican woman.
Oh, no, Jack, no! You're not about to tell me they put you in blackface.
They did not.
Okay,
they did
thank
not.
God.
It was just a scene in the production. Otherwise, it would not have surprised me.
God, that's fucking wild.
Yeah. My favorite time being a woman was my freshman year of theater.
Okay.
And I was in a play called Nude Descending a Staircase, which is based on...
Right, you've mentioned that on the show a couple of times.
Have I?
Yeah, I think so.
It's definitely been something that I'm sure I've talked about while we've been drinking.
Yes, definitely that.
Well, it's based on I want to say a Marcel Duchamp painting.
Sure.
Cubist painting, but somebody like rewrote his life as a murder mystery.
That's fun.
Yeah, no, it was a cool play. I was the nude.
Descending the staircase.
Mm-hmm. So I had to, and I'm convinced there's 2 reasons I got the part. One, I agreed to be in it.
You were a willing body.
Yeah, there was a pretty low turnout for that production because I didn't know this at the time, but the director had a bit of a reputation.
Oh?
Yeah. There's a reason I went into directing for a while.
Sure.
Because I was like, maybe this acting thing, not for me. Perhaps Showgirls is more like my life than I realized.
Huh.
Yeah. I too gave Kyle MacLachlan a strip dance.
You two made
dolphin love too.
Made horrifying, deeply concerning dolphin love to Kyle MacLachlan and made him ruin some good pants.
So I was this woman, and I had to put on my back. So like, I'm a woman, so my wiener has to point upstage.
Yeah.
So they cannot see that I am in fact a penis having person.
Yes.
So I'm putting on like leggings. Respect. Don't know how those work. Those are the worst.
Terrible.
And then heels. Never figured those out. I did get pretty good with the leggings, the pantyhose. Never, the heels didn't work for me. But there was one rehearsal where I had my fur coat. It was the first time I was wearing it, and the fur coat just kind of like flew open. And I'm performing, and no one called cut. So I was just like, I'm walking. I'm a strong woman. I think the stage manager actually called cut.
Fantastic.
Or they don't call cut. They don't in theater, but
they intervened.
There's like, stop, please.
Hey guys, Jack, you cold?
I felt great. It was very refreshing. Good God, here we are. We are the DeRazzled. Welcome to DeRazzled, the podcast that takes award-winning worst films and fixes them. I'm host Jack Culbertson, and here to suffer alongside me, as always, is also host Joe Nealis.
They don't teach you how to do this in a class.
They do, don't they? They might.
They might. I don't know. Actually, you know what? I did take an editing and publishing class in undergrad, and there was absolutely a time where we edited audio, and we're like, you could do this for podcasting. And I was like, what's that?
The seed was planted.
It was like 2009.
I was thinking earlier today, I'm like, I'm so thankful that we saved this particular movie for our second season, because...
Oh, God, I can't imagine what we would have done in season 1 with this.
We weren't ready. We weren't ready for this monster. There's like if there's like a Mount Rushmore of terrible movies, I think this is on mine at least.
Okay.
Troll 2, The Room, Showgirls. There's only 3 presidents. As far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, this is where we reveal your long-standing grudge against Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah. Yeah. To be determined. I'm curious. Anyway, so like we put a lot of thought into this one. For it, I watched Showgirls. I also watched All About Eve. I watched a documentary called Girl 27 and another documentary called You Don't Know Me.
Interesting. I've never heard of that. Or Girl 27, now that I think about it.
Girl 27 is pretty esoteric, but You Don't Know Me just popped up in like, oh, you're researching Showgirls? Well, this is a documentary about the making of Showgirls.
Oh, well then.
So we're going to get into that. But I think first, for those of you who have somehow gone without watching this movie, I'm going to provide you with the best summary that I can.
It's so easy to find and to watch without ads and such. Just...
What is Tubi? It can't be legal.
It's ad sponsored. It's all, as far as I know, it's legal. I mean, it's legal enough that like every middle-aged person that I work with is super into it.
So, instead of providing a highly descriptive summary full of quips, we'll be playing a game called Pavlovian Horses, wherein I'll have 5 minutes to summarize the movie and not a second more. When the timer hits 5 minutes, Joe will blast me with horse sounds. Jell-O claims they no longer use horse hooves in the creation of Jell-O. That's strike 2, Jell-O. But before we do...
What was strike 1?
Do you remember as a kid who their spokesperson was?
No.
Jell-O?
Oh, who was... Oh.
Strike 2.
Strike
Jell-O.
Okay, fair. Okay, I got you now.
Perfectly good horse hooves getting thrown away. But before we do, Joe's going to remind you to make a list and check it twice. That list being of things that you should do.
You should do it. Yes, like look us up on social media and follow us and tell your friends to do the same. And also, please rate and review the show so that we pop up higher in search results. Thank you to everyone who has been doing that, including for our episodes on Starship Troopers that we just did.
I've got like a serious case of cottonmouth. My new meds are doing some things.
Oh, man.
So,
yeah, that'll happen.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, we got city water. It's fine.
So before you hit the timer, I should say that like I'm reading this as the Jack of a week ago who wrote the script.
Sure.
All right.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Go!
Fuck, all right, fine. Let's do this. Let's summarize Showgirls. It's my day off, and I had been learning how to make my own action figure, starting with the X-Men character Phantom X, or Phantoma if you're going with the French pronunciation. You see, it could go either way, because when Grant Morrison first debuted Phantoma, that's the way I say it.
Jumping right into the Morrison reference this time.
Phantoma being an homage to the 1968 Italian film Danger Diabolique or Diabolic, depending on, again, the pronunciation. For his run in the new X-Men, he presented the characters French. But later in that same run, we learned that this is just an identity that he's created for himself so that he can feel like a super cool, super spy assassin. I'm talking about Phantoma, not Grant Morrison. Definitely not Grant Morrison. But yes, let's step away from what I believe was Grant Morrison, his early self-analysis of gender identity in the early 2000 comic books.
I'm bewildered.
So that I can tell you about how I learned Jesse Spano has a landing strip.
You took up almost now an entire minute.
Nomi, the writer's pet name for his wife, hitches a ride to Vegas to become a showgirl. Ass, gas, or grass? How about a switchblade to the balls, motherfucker? She becomes embroiled in strange sex games between the lead of the show, Crystal with an I, and Kyle MacLachlan. She finds herself in this predicament.
Just Kyle MacLachlan.
Yeah. It's got a weird side gig and a weird side cum.
Yeah.
She finds herself in this predicament after abducting a best friend who's a seamstress for the show.
Yeah, she just kind of grab her and conscript her into best frienditude.
They head bump like cats and then they're friends.
They do, yeah.
Nomi isn't quite at the level to audition, so she strips at the Cheetah, which is a scummy not pimp, with a scummy not pimp, and a sideshow comedian who has her dress rigged to flash people as a sort of rim shot to her gags, and I love her so much. It's basically divine.
Yeah.
At the Cheetah, and at the insistence of Crystal, Nomi makes Kyle MacLachlan jizz in his pants with a lap dance dry hump dolphin fuck.
That should be extremely disconcerting to anybody who practices chiropractics.
I would think she would have more predominant abs being able to do what she did.
Yeah, honestly.
You see Crystal kind of like toying with Nomi, but is probably attracted to Nomi as well, but is annoyed by the naive newbie, but sees a part of herself in this ambitious young dancer, but is pissed at her sort of boyfriend who wants to bang this sleazy stripper. Crystal, we all contain multitudes. And Nomi auditions for the show, but her nipples are broken. Regardless, she gets the part. Crystal volunteers to practice with her, but JK, they go to dine by that place near Versailles. In a scene that passes the Bechdel test, Nomi and Crystal talk about how they have eaten dog food.
Actually, yeah, that does, yeah.
I hope it wasn't bacon strip, because that shit does not taste as good as it smells.
God damn it.
Nomi fucks Kyle MacLachlan like a fishy. Missing an opportunity to make orca noises as she does. Where am I time-wise?
Like a minute and a half.
Left?
Left.
Oh. Then pushes Crystal down the stairs to get her role and realizes that perhaps fame isn't worth it when her best friend, who has having a perfectly good life before meeting this white chick, came along, gets SA'd. Allow me to give you up the speed. So there's this other subplot involving Molly and the BFF, maybe boyfriend, favorite musician, Andrew. I want to say Carnegie, but it's not. It's like Carver or something. Andrew Carver. At every opportunity in the movie, they can insert this song. They just like cram it in there. It's one of the worst original made for movies songs I've ever heard in my life. I can't actually remember what's happening in the scene because it's intercutting between like Nomi doing a thing and then that happening. Anyways, Nomi has enough of the scummy under. I see your thumb moving. Nomi has enough of the scummy underbelly of Las Vegas, deciding to trade it in for the scummy underbelly of Hollywood. She hitches a ride, booking the film with the same dude who picked her up originally. As George Lucas would say, it's like poetry. Somewhere in an alternate universe, Showgirls was a smash hit, and Paul Verhoeven was given the go-ahead to direct a sequel, Showgirls 2. Nomi goes to Hollywood. I'm not joking.
Wait, was that the end?
Yeah.
Holy shit, Jack! That was exactly 5 minutes. Literally, I was about to hit play. Just, good lord.
I'm sweating. There's just like...
I can't believe you did
sweat
that.
running down my back.
Jesus Christ.
Shit.
How's your heart?
How's my mouth?
That's actually, it's a better question, probably. Oh my god.
Oh,
that was amazing. I can't even be mad about that.
I thought I was done for.
I thought we were in Horse City for sure.
I was like, at least let me get this George Lucas reference out. Have you ever seen that clip?
Which one?
There's like a bunch of made behind the scenes making of episode 1 stuff.
Oh, I've probably seen it.
And it's like after all the executives have watched the first cut of episode 1, and he's trying to explain it to them. Like he's trying to like talk himself into liking the movie.
Yes.
And that they all like the movie.
Yeah.
And you see, it's kind of like it's poetry.
Yep.
Because there's something like about booking and ending. Anyway.
Bravo.
God, so when I asked you how much time I had left, it was at the moment that I said she missed her opportunity to make orca sounds while she was fucking him in the swimming pool.
Yep.
So there's this one time.
Okay.
There's this one time that I was at the sexy club.
Ah, right.
And had done my thing. I was just kind of like laying there, you know. But the way it's set up is it's a bunch of paper thin wall rooms.
Yeah. I imagine the soundproofing is non-existent.
It's not great. So I could hear somebody having the sex in one of the adjacent rooms.
And they were making orca sounds?
They kind of were. And I had been drinking enough and was in that post bliss that I just started to make orca sounds along with them.
Oh, God. You're reenacting Dory talking to whales from Finding Dory. Yeah. You're having your own little Pixar moment in the middle of this fuck club.
Yeah. It was a good time.
Incredible.
So anyway...
I will note...
Oh, my God.
You got through that entire synopsis and did not once mention the character of James.
Yes. Yeah. There are several subplots. One of them involves James that could have been completely cut and you would have lost nothing.
Not a single thing. It is kind of bewildering.
Really quickly to catch you up on James, Nomi and her roommate / best friend, Molly,
yeah,
go to a dance club, and she is dancing really good. I am told.
She sure is just dancing as hard as she can.
Yes, that I will give her that.
A for effort, D- for just about everything else.
Well, the one bouncer's just super turned on by this, and he goes and dances with her, and then she...
If by dances with her you mean negs her a whole bunch and insults her dancing?
It's really gross. I hate that scene. But it ends with him getting nailed in the balls by her.
She knees him right in the crotch, and it feels good in the moment.
It does. She ends up in prison.
Does she get arrested there? I forget what. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah, because he bails her out. Yeah.
But they form a sexually tense teacher.
Okay. Let's be clear about the development of this relationship here. It starts off as him stalking her because we have no idea how he finds out where she works or lives.
This is
true.
He
turns up in both those places, and then somehow turns into them having a day with cheeseburgers and driving around.
So that happens because Nomi's working at the Cheetah.
Yes, she leaves the Cheetah.
Well, she's currently at the Cheetah, and Kyle MacLachlan and Crystal are doing the lap dance thing.
Right.
And he's being a pervert and watching.
He was that was part of the stalking. Yeah. He was being a pervert and watching. And then another guy came up and a bouncer came up and called him on it. But in the process of calling him on it, reached out really weirdly to like rub the beaded curtain.
Just gotta straighten that shit out.
Yeah. Just like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Just had his ADHD moment.
Just he needed to stim for a second.
Yeah,
then
I get it.
He's neurodiverse hiring. Thank you, Las Vegas.
Yeah, the cheetah's an all right place to work. Oh God, what does the owner say to her later? Because she gets out of there, and then there's like a father-mother visit.
Becca and I were just making reference to this before I left. His mama and what's his name come and visit her at the Starlight, and mama says some nice heartfelt things about her, and then this fucking chode is just a chode, like a weird sexist chode. And as they're turning to leave, he turns back around one more time and goes, "I bet it's weird not having anyone come on you."
But he says it in a way that he's trying to connect with her.
Like you can tell he thinks this is an endearing thing to say. Yeah. It's just like, must be weird not having to get that jizz mopped up off you, huh? Don't worry, sport, you'll get him.
What a weird fucking movie.
What a strange, this is a bizarre fucking movie.
So like James gets fired and then works as a bellhop, I think, for a hot second. Sees Nomi leave the audition that she bombed.
And
because her nipples were broken.
Starts talking to her about that, but then his boss at the bellhop position starts yelling at him about that, which results in him getting fired and him throwing his jacket in his former boss's face. Which it took me like 5 minutes of that scene to realize oh wait, he got fired from the bouncer position because I legitimately had the thought like, how many jobs does this guy have for a minute?
But he ends up he's kind of like you must you're selling out on your art by becoming a showgirl.
Yeah, I think that they try to position him that way, but he's just
work.
It doesn't work because he's a manipulative stalker who just wants to fuck her.
Yeah. He has, I quote, a pussy problem.
Yes, that is verbatim a line from this film that he says he has, which kudos to Nomi for saying like, I can't deal with your problems. That's not my job.
But she does get a cheeseburger with him.
She does get a cheeseburger with him.
It's a really good looking cheeseburger.
I will say the cheeseburger, that looked very good. Yeah, I would have eaten that cheeseburger. Maybe not with James, but...
No, she also polluted, which was not cool.
I literally shouted, "Don't litter!"
I'm like, is this character-wise supposed to show that you're like a wild chick? I don't know.
So... I feel like her entire performance is geared toward just communicating how much of a disaster she is as a person. Because there's not a single moment where she feels relatable or we will
talk about her performance because there's so much to talk about.
Yeah, we'll get more in depth into that in a bit here.
Do you want to take a break or do you want to talk about some stats?
Let's take a break first and then we'll jump into some stats.
Do you know what the tomato meter score is for Showgirls?
Tomato meter for Showgirls. I do not. I'm going to guess that it's like a 31. Lower. Okay. My gut instinct was lower and I didn't listen to it. 21.
23.
Okay.
Yeah. How about the audience score?
Audience score. There's a lot of perverts out there.
There are a lot of perverts out there.
A lot of perverts.
This movie is not a bomb, and it's because of the perverts.
I did read the Wikipedia a little bit, and I do know that it made all of its money back in video rentals.
Yes.
So, which is very funny.
Yes. I think it's the highest earning NC-17 movie ever.
It has to be.
Because perverts.
Oh, God. I want to say 45.
37.
37. Okay. I corrected a bit too far, but...
Well, don't worry. IMDb has your back.
This is a 4.5.
It's a 5.
It's a 5?
It's 10.
A 5?
Yeah.
What? IMDb, what the fuck is your community's problem? Like, what is happening?
So, audience, in a very after this 2-part, we're going to do another guilty pleasure episode, and I had a little bit of trouble finding a guilty pleasure film because people, I don't know if it's like a nostalgia thing, but it's hard to find a movie that isn't lower than like a 5.5.
Actually, I don't think I've looked mine up on IMDb.
So I wanted to do Conan the Destroyer, and I think it's like a 5.9 currently. But even the like movies that I'm like, that's not a good movie, still pretty high.
Yeah, Gamer's a 5.7 on IMDb.
People are so forgiving.
I don't get it. I like this movie. It's a bad movie.
Right.
I like
That's why it's a guilty pleasure.
That's why it's a guilty pleasure. Yeah.
I think
fascinating.
Flintstones, which is mine.
Yes.
I think is a 5. It's like a 5 or 5.2, something like that. Definitely low enough that I feel like, well, at least they're kind of admitting that it's not a very good movie.
Yeah, dead even 5.
Wonderful. Well, I'm going to pretend it's about all the people that like went to the midnight showing and had a blast. Just gave it like 10 out of 10 to be a smartass.
I would not be surprised if there are some folks out there who did that.
That's what I'm going with.
Yeah, so. Verhoeven has mentioned that there is a critical reappraisal of this movie that has happened, and I'm wondering what the fuck he means by that. Because I get it with Starship Troopers, I don't with this.
So, allow me to recommend a movie.
Yes,
it's called You Don't Know Me, and it's a documentary that tries to figure out if Showgirls is good or not.
Huh?
And it is a wild ride. Because there are people that fight on both sides. Like there are people that argue that Verhoeven is a feminist, but also maybe he's a misogynist, but also maybe he's just Dutch.
That honestly, it's probably mostly that. Like he talks about that when talking about Starship Troopers.
My opinion of Verhoeven looked. You ever see those Family Circus comics?
Oh yeah,
where they have little dots tracking the kid run around the house.
Yeah.
That was my opinion of Verhoeven throughout that documentary. I'm like, I hate him. I love him. He's just misunderstood. He did what? I started the movie and ended the movie the same. Like poetry, I was just like, eh. I mean, in general, I think it's a bad idea to put your heroes on a pedestal.
Yes.
Especially if they're an artist.
Yeah.
But he would not be on my Mount Rushmore of directors that I would want to meet.
Interesting. Okay. Like, what are some highlights? Like, what are some of the most noteworthy things that he had done or that were covered about him?
So he's not. I think the reason we don't hear about him as much as some other directors is he's not done anything horrible as a human being.
Sure.
It's his art that like has moments of questionable taste.
Yes.
So one of the things I like in the documentary is it talks about his early work in the Netherlands. Sorry.
Yeah.
I had to blank for a second. And his first movie, I forget what it was called. I think it stars a very young Rutger Hauer.
Oh.
Because they worked together for like 4 or 5 movies.
I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah. I do want to check some of them out, but it's just like a raunchy sex comedy.
It's hard for me to picture Rutger Hauer in a raunchy sex comedy.
Well, the scene they use is just like it's like a single mattress on like a squeaky bed, and it's just 2 bodies just like having sex, kinda, and then you realize it's Rutger Hauer on top, which like all right, sure. It's like pale ass just bouncing on the
pale replicant ass.
Yeah, yeah. But he is still, I think, the highest grossing filmmaker in the Netherlands among other Dutch directors.
Sure. Yeah, that's to be expected, I'd imagine. Especially considering as in the time that he's not been active here,
right.
He has been making movies in the Netherlands.
Well, yes. I mean, before he went over to the United States.
Oh, okay.
But that being said, he made this film that basically got him kicked out of the Netherlands.
Wait, and that's how he ended up coming over here to make movies?
Yeah.
That's bonkers.
Yeah, not like chased out like a Frankenstein monster, but just like, we don't really want to fund your movies after having watched that.
So what was the movie?
So it was called, I'm going to mispronounce it, but
sure.
Speters.
Spacers.
And it's basically, the plot is basically if you took the first 20, 30 minutes of Clockwork Orange, so it's just the gang being awful, but they, instead of hanging out in cool white suits, they're
with
like
weird cod pieces.
With weird cod pieces, they like are bikers.
Okay.
Which is, I think that's the Spaters.
They're the Spaters.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's very homophobic. And very I mean this episode's gonna have content warning.
Yeah. No. Yeah, if we haven't already, I guess content warnings for sexual assault, probably some homophobia, racism, misogyny, who knows.
Yeah.
Just a bunch of shit.
But there's a pretty graphic assault scene in Spaters.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
As well as the homophobia, which much like A Clockwork Orange being another movie that people don't quite understand.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to like these guys.
No. It's an Always Sunny situation.
Yeah, if they were a gang of roving rapist bikers.
Dennis.
It's an exercise bike. So just somebody pointed out there's a lot of assault scenes in his films.
Okay, yeah, that's an unfortunate trend.
Which, just speaking on Verhoeven, I haven't watched a lot of his movies, but I've watched Total Recall, RoboCop,
yes,
Basic Instinct, Showgirls now,
and Starship Troopers.
But it's been a while since I've watched most of those. Other than Starship Troopers, which we just covered,
right?
The rest I watched when I was 18 through 20.
Yeah, I wanted to rewatch RoboCop going into this. I know you did too, but neither of us had the time to do it, unfortunately.
And I didn't have the stomach to rewatch Basic Instinct.
Yeah, I get that.
Because this movie shares the same writer.
They're both Joe Eszterhas.
Yes,
yeah,
correct. Which I'm going to save most of that for the part 2 of this series. That is just a very basic analysis of Paul Verhoeven. He's really difficult to kind of nail down. One, he's a satirist, so he's always doing things with his tongue in his cheek.
Right. That's one of the things that makes it hard to interpret some of the stuff that he's doing in moralistic terms, because he's making some kind of larger social point with them, or treating, or kind of taking the piss out of them a little bit, and given different, depending on the situation and the depiction, and to varying levels of success, let's say.
Right. I mean, we just see our last 2 episodes for confusion on satire.
There were 2 things that I wanted to mention in those episodes, but I was sick, so my brain didn't let me recall these 2 particular pieces of information. So in terms of there was that review of Starship Troopers where somebody said no, this is literally made by neo-Nazis. No, you're fucking stupid. That's nonsense. One of the points I wanted to bring up was that I mentioned that he was living in Texas and he had the idea of all the increased state executions done under George W. Bush. There was an interview done with him at some point where one of the interviewers was saying oh, but you weren't saying anything about America being fascist. You were talking about this, and the other thing being fascist. To which Paul Verhoeven leaned into the microphone and just said, I was saying America is fascist. And then leaned back. But some of the times when he talks about these things, he kind of shoots himself in the foot by stumbling over his words and getting his reference mixed up whenever he's talking about the fascism, or the way that the world is built. Because on the one hand, it's he's talking about the construction of the fascist world and how that factors into the satire, but then when he compares it to the real world, he accidentally makes it sound like he's supporting some of the things that are there. It's no, but hold on, you need to clarify that a little bit more. But then he speaks in such absolute terms of no, this is evil, I hate it, and so many other points. It's you can't actually say that he supports fascism, but sometimes he'll trip over a word and it feels like a gotcha at some point. So that can undercut the perception of the satire a little bit here and there. I think I can
pretty safely say that he is anti-fascism.
Yes.
It's harder to say. I would not say that he's a feminist.
So I think it boils down to his upbringing and the culture in which he grew up in. Because
he was born in what, 42?
He was born in 38.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so he was starting to form memories in a Nazi-occupied country, basically.
Which we'll talk more about in part 2.
Yes. But, like, in terms of sexuality, though, and depictions of sexuality, like, sex is a much different thing in media there. Like,
yes.
Like, we talked about it a little bit last episode, like, sex in media is very normal and expected and encouraged, and, and depending on, how it's being depicted. And violence is the thing that's, like, taboo and weird and unacceptable for a lot of people, whereas here it's the exact fucking opposite. Until you really break down how leery and creepy a lot of the male gaze bullshit is in our media.
He's a very interesting person. It also doesn't help that his opinion has, the way he's talked about Showgirls has changed.
Okay.
When Showgirls first came out, there was actually a book that he had written to go along with it, kind of like a
primer, like
a companion.
Okay, that's interesting. I'd like to track that down.
Good luck. It's apparently like a prized item among people who like tacky.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Because he basically has gone on to negate everything that he says in it. Because the original companion was like, this is the world that we're taking very seriously, and here's more about the characters and blah 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 blah. And then if you talk to him more currently about it, he says it was always meant to be a joke and satirical.
So I texted you while I was watching this movie, and you didn't respond to this at the time because it was late, and you were probably sleeping, which good.
Probably screaming at the moon.
Also, that has its use as well. But I sent you a message asking, why does this movie feel like a Tommy Wiseau film sometimes? And what you just told me is the most Tommy Wiseau shit, because he got so mad over the perception of The Room as funny until years later when he started to embrace it and started to say, oh, yeah, no, I always meant it to be funny. It's a joke. Yeah. No,
they should hang out.
I wonder if they're buddies. That's uncanny. That is like literally the same arc.
Yeah. Kyle MacLachlan, however, has stated bullshit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's like, that is bullshit. He's like, we all were under the belief that we're making an incredibly dramatic, hard-hitting look at the entertainment industry.
Thank you, Kyle, for telling the truth.
Yeah.
I love you, bud.
The only lie he told was that ass. That was a stunt ass.
Oh, no, that wasn't his real ass?
Nah.
I'm so disappointed
me
now.
too.
Those had to be his cum gutters,
Those
though.
were, yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't have the digital ability to add those in post in 96. Let's do some stats.
Also, again, I'm going to die on this hill. The absolute cowards not showing any dick in this NC-17 film.
You could have had so much dick.
You have all the room in the world to just
pretty
put
sure I
dick.
saw a butthole.
I'm pretty sure I saw someone's intestines. Like,
I thought for a second they were going to show character's name is James, right?
Yeah,
because he comes to the door either mid coitus or post coitus.
Oh, right, yeah, because he's fucking Penny or whatever her name is.
Sure,
yeah.
Because Nomi's like, I got the part. Goes over to his apartment in the middle of the fucking night. Which I'm like, why? No.
Well, to be fair, they have very, very loose boundaries about when anyone shows up anywhere.
Much like The Room.
Much like The Room. They're both Denny in this situation.
Fuck. In 1996, the 16th Annual Golden Raspberry Awards, Showgirls was nominated for 13 Golden Razzies.
It's a lot of goddamn Razzies.
I think it held the record for a good minute.
Because it won like 7 of them, right?
6.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think it was the most until Battlefield Earth.
That sounds about right.
Okay.
So it obviously won Worst Picture, as well as Worst Director.
Sure.
Paul Verhoeven did accept it in person.
Which you told me that, and that gives me so much respect for him. At least like when it comes to this terrible movie.
Yeah.
I love that he was able to own it and go and accept that award.
Which, in the documentary, You Don't Know Me, they do have that footage.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And it's cool. It's cool.
He's a good sport about it.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't think he ever admits it's bad. He's just like, I think part of it is he did it as a middle finger to the Academy, which I also respect.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
and he was the first person to do that.
Right, yeah. He predates Halle Berry doing it.
So it was nominated for Worst Actor. Kyle MacLachlan was nominated for Worst Actor.
Really? Yeah. I'm a little surprised by that, but okay.
He's bad, but he's not
terrible. Yeah. Especially, I mean, look at the rest of the cast. But
well, they're here too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He lost to Pauly Shore in Jury Duty, which is a film I've never heard of, but I'm not surprised.
I've heard of Jury Duty, but I'm also, I think the only of those like early 90s Pauly Shore movies I've actually seen is Encino Man.
Yeah.
And I mostly watched that because Brendan Fraser.
God, did you watch any of the interview between him and
Adam Sandler? No, I've not seen it yet.
It's beautiful.
I need to watch that.
It's really sweet just watching them be buddies.
I need an Airheads reunion. Just fly in Steve Buscemi. Let's
like they're talking about how Adam Sandler stole Brendan Fraser from Pauly Shore because Pauly didn't want to share him in case there was an Encino Man too.
Oh my God.
It's a delight.
That's amazing.
Elizabeth Berkley won Worst Actress.
Okay.
For Worst Supporting Actor, there were 2 nominations. There was worst supporting actor.
Okay.
Tony Moss. What character was that?
Tony Moss. He was the
Was he the?
He was the one who was he was like the show director. He was auditioning her. He was the one who was like, "I'm erect. Why aren't you erect?"
Well, okay. I strongly disagree.
Wait, did he win?
He was nominated.
Oh, he was nominated. Okay.
Alan Rankins, I'm going to say.
Alan Rankins. Was he...
That's him. He was Tony Moss.
Oh, because I was the actor. Okay.
And then the other character was Al Torres.
Al Torres.
Yeah. Played by Robert Davey. They both lost to Dennis Hopper in Waterworld, which...
Ooh,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, Dennis Hopper's character was fun, but also terrible.
Right.
He was, he was both great and terrible. Okay, so Al Torres, that's Robert Davey. He's the I won't hire you back even if you give me a blowjob. It must be weird not having cum all over you, guy.
I can see him being nominated.
Yes, he absolutely deserves that nomination.
Tony Moss, I disagree.
I'm on the fence on that one.
Well, it doesn't matter because Dennis, he earned it.
Yeah. And how?
Worst supporting actress, Gina Gershon was nominated for Crystal.
I kind of get that.
And fuck you. They nominated Lynn Tucci. Henrietta Mama Bazoom.
Yeah.
They both lost to, and this is really weird too, Madonna in 4 Rooms.
Okay, to be fair, the Razzies loves to hate Madonna.
Okay, so that's very small part.
There are two actors in history that I know they have just had it out for a long time, and it's Sylvester Stallone and Madonna. They fucking shit on them every opportunity they get.
Okay, I mean, in general, I like 4 Rooms.
I'm not familiar with it, but I think this might just be the first time we've come across a Madonna nomination in the year, because of what years we've done up to this point. We're gonna run into a lot more.
Okay.
Like I remember as we were starting research of like, let's even just look at the history of the Razzies. Mm-hmm. There is a point where there's where it's like worst actress of the century or whatever.
Gotcha.
And it was Madonna.
Worst remake or sequel, The Scarlet Letter was one.
I mostly hate that book, so yeah, that's fine.
I like the idea of the book.
I like anything that that takes Nathaniel Hawthorne down a peg. So
I think we've talked about our disagreement on Nathaniel Hawthorne.
I hate him. I can't stand Nathaniel Hawthorne.
I've never met the guy, but I like the content that he covers.
I started to turn around on him in grad school when I was reading the Blythedale Romance, and then I got to the end of the Blythedale Romance, and I wanted to throw the book across the room. I was so mad.
So anyway, Showgirls was nominated because it is. They say remake. I don't know that it's a remake. I would say that it.
What are they saying? It's a remake.
Borrows heavily from the film All About Eve, which I will talk about.
Okay.
And also The Lonely Lady, which I'm not familiar with.
I've never heard of that. All About Eve I've at least heard about.
Yeah, that I think it won like Best Picture. It's pretty well known.
Just to be clear, no, I do not know about this because of the Sandra Bullock vehicle All About Steve.
I've never heard of it, but
it's one of the worst movies. We might end up covering it at some point. It's really fucking bad.
Nice. I'll have to rewatch All About Eve again. Showgirls won Worst Screenplay for Joe Eszterhas. It also won Worst New Actor for Elizabeth Berkley, so that's 2 for her.
Oh wow!
And it won Worst Original Song. I'm gonna read what they wrote, titled "Walk into the Wind," also known as "Love Theme from the Rape Scene" from Showgirls, written by David A. Stewart and Terry Hall. It's a really, really bad song.
Yeah. It did not leave much of an impression on me, but I did not enjoy that music. No. Especially considering there was a scene where I'm Afraid of Americans by David Bowie and Trent Reznor was playing. Like there was some good music in the soundtrack.
The whole soundtrack's not bad. It's just a lot of the music they use for the show it's not even bad. It's just like goofy.
Yeah.
And then there's the song they made for the movie,
which is bad.
Which is
just bad.
So let's take a break and then we'll come back and do some critiquing.
Okay, sounds good.
Man, welcome back. I am excited to critique this. This is probably the thing, at least for part 1, that I'm most excited to talk about.
Hell yeah.
Because most of the movies, maybe all of the movies that we've covered so far, they were made by people that either were just like fucking around or more likely the case, they wanted to make money.
Sure.
Whereas this movie, Paul Verhoeven, he had a plan. He wanted to do a thing. He wanted to make a piece of art. He failed, in my opinion.
Agreed.
But the movie doesn't work because he didn't give a fuck. He gave a fuck.
He did.
He gave too many fucks. So let's start with the cast.
Okay.
We'll start with who worked. There are 2 actors in this that I think we've already mentioned him, that I really, really like.
So, Madame Tucci.
I think Lynn Tucci.
Lynn Tucci, yes.
Who apparently is in Orange is the New Black. I've never watched the show, but I guess she's in it for a little bit.
Huh.
If you look at her without her, I mean, she basically looks like a drag queen in the movie, so it's kind of hard to tell what she actually looks like.
Yeah, I suppose that's fair.
God, I loved her. But she was great. She plays Henrietta Mama Bazoom. She looks like Divine, and whenever she like shoots a zinger, she'll kind of like
she
had a chicken dance thing.
Yeah, she had like a pump that she would squeeze. Yeah. It would cause her bust to just pop open and flash everybody and pop right back up. But Nomi was the only person who was ever able to get it to work correctly. Apparently.
Right.
Yeah, no, she was great. I thought she was a lot of fun. She really leaned into the like the goofiness and the crassness of it, I think.
Well, I think she did something that a lot of the other actors couldn't, which is embrace the heightened reality goofball shtick of this movie, but also be able to bring it back down to have those quiet moments.
Yeah.
Which takes a pretty good actor to do that.
It does.
Like whenever Nomi comes in and she's like, I'm quitting, I'm going, and she's like, nah, fuck you, or whatever. And then
she pulls her aside and she's like, no one's ever able to get him to work right.
Yeah.
Just, like there's an earnest kind of like a bittersweet sadness there.
Yeah. And like that she was the one that was like, let's go visit Nomi.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. There's no fucking way that the cum guy, that the blowjob guy was gonna volunteer to do that.
I might like this actor or this character. I might like this character more, and that's the character of Marty Jacobson, played by Patrick Bristow. And this is the guy that red hair. I think he's like a stage manager type character.
Yes,
he's famously known in the midnight showings of it. Was it? higher. So he's like smacking her ass, like thrust,
higher. Come
yeah.
on, yeah. He's like a gay stage managing drill instructor.
Yeah,
just with the intensity with which he is coaching and critiquing in the moment, just like right in your face, screaming at what you need to do, and then coming up afterward with like, here's some legitimate concerns that I have. By the way, you're performing tonight.
It's so I know the kind of chain of command for either touring shows or shows that have been running for a while is different than what I'm used to.
Sure, and this is like a long established show at this hotel, it seems.
Yeah, or if it's not, it's like the launch of what is meant to be a long standing show.
Sure. Or at the very least, it's been going on for a little while now. It might not be super old, but it's certainly not brand new at this point.
Right.
Like it's known.
So like in a theatrical production in the South that I'm used to, you have like a director who does all the interactions with the performers, unless you're doing choreography, and then they're in charge of the dance. But the stage manager is never really giving direction.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Whereas I know with touring shows, the director normally does his direction and then he's out. Like, he's done. So it would fall to somebody like a stage manager to give notes. So what this guy does, no idea, but he did it real well. If you told me that's just him, that's what he does, and they just like told that guy to stand in, I would believe it. But I think I saw elsewhere that he does a bunch of like super flamboyant type characters.
Okay.
I also didn't mind Molly's performance. I feel like she was trapped in hell. But
I would agree with that.
Gina Rivera.
Gina Rivera. Yeah. I think she got kind of a bum deal with this situation. Just like she performed admirably. I think she was a solid foil to Nomi in a number of ways, and I wish that we had gotten more from her, especially after what happens to her. She already has her bodily autonomy taken from her.
Yeah.
She also is completely silent for the rest of the film at that point.
I don't know if she quite fits the definition of being fridged.
No, I don't think we can go that far because she does live.
But what happens to her is done specifically so that Nomi's character can advance.
Yes.
Gross. You can see her character in scenes with Nomi trying to pull really ground the situation.
Yeah, she does try. Like, you can tell.
But different places.
Yeah.
Just anyway. So as far as the story goes, I don't have a problem with the story's skeleton. As far as like the individual plot beats the main arc.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's an important distinction there, just because as we've established a little bit already, there's some cruft around that skeleton that we can do without. But yeah, no, I think like the main structure of like girl goes to Vegas to start anew and become a dancer.
Yeah.
Has to work through this horrible exploitative system and eventually gets chewed up and spat out by it, or the people around her are, and then she strikes back and leaves. Yeah.
So what you described is very similar to All About Eve.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the way I have it written is skeleton's good, but it was also a stolen skeleton. So,
Joe Eszterhas is a grave robber.
Yeah. God, I can't wait to talk about that guy. I think if I read... No, the dialogue's still pretty stupid. I was going to say, like, if I read the script really without the performance, but like, no, the dialogue, they talk about eating dog food.
The dog food conversation goes on entirely too long.
I missed it the first time around, but this second time, there's something to do with like chimps and garlic and shitting on stage. And
what were these? Did you lose your mind over the chimps? Like I
almost broke my jaw. It dropped so far.
It's like, they're just letting these chimps run around all over the place. Like,
they do mention it earlier in the film. I missed it the first time. There's something about like, it reeks in here. It's like, it's all that garlic and chimps. The chimps like to
they
eat
do mention it
like
real quick early on, and then it comes back around to it's upper stage left to monkey shit. Just
which like That feels like show business.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah. It's like, we're not going to clean this up now. There's no
that
time.
might have just been something that happened, and they're like, just keep the camera rolling.
Yeah. Just
from what I read, the dancers were pretty comfortable with the nudity, doing their scenes, whatever. But when the chimps came on set, that's when everybody was like, I don't feel good. Which, you know what? Nope.
If only Nope had come out a good 25 years earlier.
Woof. So yeah, like the overall structure of the movie, I don't have a problem with. The execution, many problems.
Many problems, yes.
This is also the first time I think I've ever watched a movie that addressed period sex. I mean, I'm sure that I've seen something, but
I will say that was like the one moment where both Becca and I were like, "Oh, okay, James did a good thing," where he's not grossed out about the idea of having sex on a woman's period.
No,
just like,
I got towels.
I got towels. Like, yes, correct answer. That's it. That's all you need. You what?
No, I'm like, I don't think I've ever seen that reaation in a movie before.
No, I'm pretty sure I haven't, actually. So
if you've watched a movie with period sex, please email us at
DeRazzledpodcast@gmail.com. Not porn doesn't count.
Porn doesn't count. Themes. The theme of this movie is the corruption. The stated theme of this movie.
That's yes. That word's doing a lot of heavy lifting.
Is to deal with the corruption of the entertainment industry.
Yes.
Do I like that theme? Yes.
Yes.
And there's one scene specifically that
is like, the boat scene.
Oh yeah, that's that. But like the end of that issue where Kyle MacLachlan calls up Phil, and is like, Phil, you
dumb bitch, come back up here.
Yeah. Like that was a great moment. And I don't want to laugh, but I am laughing. But I also feel disgusting.
It's mostly just like I'm laughing at Kyle MacLachlan's delivery in that moment because he does deliver it funny. But no, like situationally, like it's fucked up.
Yeah,
because he goes to great lengths to make it seem like he cares about Nomi's feelings and what Nomi went through in that situation. And no, he did not give a fuck.
No, overall. Didn't really hit it, but anyway, so what didn't work? My bad, I skipped over the production itself.
That, I mean, the sets I think were very well appointed for what they needed to be. Like that, the cheetah felt
I did like the
very
cheetah.
gross and seedy, and
it could have been a little grimier, but I get it.
It could have been a little grimier. I do imagine that guy that walked up and was like, "I want to see your ass," was just a guy who was there. It wasn't actually like an extra or anything. They just couldn't get him to stop doing that.
It's like, just keep it.
Just
it's too much work to not have.
Keep the shots and move on.
The actors that they had in that scene were really well cast.
Every single one of those guys seemed like they spent a lot of time in places like Cheetah.
What a place. I excluding, if you exclude Nomi's dancing, I really did like the big dance numbers.
The actual
Goddess.
The actual performances within Goddess, I think, were good. With the exception of the fixation on Nomi herself, and the weird like biker sequence where
it was interesting.
Where it was like the on stage kind of direct clash between Nomi and Crystal. Yeah, like that was that was not well executed. I think, but
you don't fight dance.
I mean.
Not anymore.
I got banned from capoeira a long time ago, man. I don't want to talk. We can't talk about this again, all right? The NSA is listening. We can't let Gary know about this, okay? I know he's been listening in quiet for all these episodes.
He's an excellent dance fighter.
He's a really good dance fighter. He'll come for me.
So, what didn't work for Showgirls?
Pretty much all of the lead characters do not work. Nomi is such an over-the-top mess that she's not relatable or believable. Zach, Kyle MacLachlan's character, is just a walking example of why I don't trust people who are like, I got an MBA. Or a walking cartoon of that, I
also think
say.
He was miscast.
He was miscast. I agree with that. Crystal was...
I went back and forth on her, to be honest.
She's confounding, honestly. Like, her motivations are so muddled, and
this is what cleared it up for me. I was trying to save this for the next part. But so in All About Eve, which this movie heavily borrows from,
yes,
the Nomi analog is not the protagonist of All About Eve. It's the Crystal.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's the older actress who's the main character, the main focus.
And being kind of deposed by the younger actress.
Correct.
Okay.
Famously played by Bette Davis.
Oh.
And I think there's so much for that character to chew on that when they took the movie over and flipped it over to Showgirls, she still has all the juicy motivations. But now she's the secondary character.
Yeah.
The antagonist. Not that I think you couldn't flip-flop who you're focusing on, but I think that there's a reason that All About Eve focuses on the older actress.
Well, I think like the way that they work Crystal in this, like they go out of their way to like have Zach like kind of poke at her like after he's fucked Nomi, he kind of jabs her like, are you just mad that I got there first? Like kind of just highlighting this like, okay, is she like on a power trip where she's trying to lord it over her underling, or is she actually like, or is she also trying to like neg this woman into a relationship like everyone else the fuck around her?
That's another thing that's confusing because in All About Eve there is a lot of, I mean, this movie was made I think in the either like late 40s or early 50s.
Okay.
There's a lot of subtle queer stuff because it, the time period.
Sure.
And I wonder if Verhoeven was like, okay, we're going to take all of that stuff that we had to do subtly and
we're going to amp it up
to 12.
Yep. That's
which like, I don't have a problem with that, but you have so much going on in this movie already that to also have that, either just have that and get rid of some of the other shit.
Yep.
Or, I don't know, get a writer that can spin those plates.
I think that's probably the more apt thing there, because I don't think given I'm not terribly familiar with Joe Eszterhas's work overall, but like this ain't it, man.
I will say that because of Basic Instinct, they were basically allowed to do whatever they wanted. The movie did well enough and was received well enough.
Which is interesting because I feel like that movie became kind of a punchline after so many years as well.
Because it's sleazy
Yeah.
as fuck. It's cheesy and horny.
Yeah.
Which the 90s
kind of were. Yeah, I mean, like
I had not watched the movie until I think I moved to Pittsburgh, so maybe like 10 years ago.
Sure.
So I didn't have any attachment to it when I watched it. I was like, this is cheesy as hell and I'm not really enjoying it. But
Fair.
people who like Rob was the one that's like, hey, let's sit down and watch this. Like, it's no why you're gonna like it. But he had watched it when it was first released or around then.
Rob, who was a part of our Cats episode.
Correct.
Yes.
And he's like, it's real hot. I'm like, didn't do it for me. Where's that 3-boobed woman from Total Recall? That's more my speed. So I, as far as the performances go, I do want to really quickly point out two things. One, Paul Verhoeven takes full credit for pushing Elizabeth Berkley to be that dramatic.
I'm not surprised. That honestly, that was one of the first thoughts that I had, especially knowing in the back of my mind the lengths that he went to with trying to push reactions out of the cast of Starship Troopers.
Yeah.
So obviously she's trying to pole dance and he's roaring at her with a broom in his hand.
There's some in the documentary, there's some video of early dance practices. Like they're in like a dance hall or something.
Okay.
And watching him kind of like say what kind of dance stuff he wants is hilarious.
Because does he like not know any actual dance terminology? So he's just shouting out like, I need you to do the kicky thing.
Well, he's just doing it.
So he's just doing it and he goes, like this, come on, like me.
Yeah. But he's talking to the dance instructor.
Oh, okay. So he's using the dance instructor as a translator. So he does a silly thing.
Yeah.
The translator, or the dance instructor goes, okay, I know how to handle this,
right.
and conveys that to Elizabeth.
Here's my theory, right? So I see him do and describe that he wants very sharp, snappy movements.
Yeah. Which
you see in the film. When you see that out of the, I guess for lack of a better word, the extras that are dancing, it's not as jarring.
Sure.
But I'm assuming they are professional dancers that have probably taken modern dance or abstract and you can work his direction into a workable dance.
Whereas Elizabeth Berkley, I don't believe is.
She did.
Oh.
She did have dance training, but it wasn't her focus.
Ah, okay. I mean, still, if she had some of the training, then I mean,
I think that probably helped her to be able to get the part at all.
Sure,
but probably wasn't enough to help her translate his direction into not being goofy as hell.
Okay. Yeah, because as I was watching this with Becca, who my partner, who was on our Mommy Dearest episode, and she did competitive dance through as a kid and a teenager, and all of her sisters did as well. So she knows a thing or two about that, and given this realm of dance is a little different, a little more risque, let's say, but. Still, some of the principles of just body movement are the same. And, the shit she does with her arms everywhere is so bewildering.
I mean, I know dick all about dancing.
Same.
But I'm looking at a stage of 20 people, and there's one person that looks like a dumbass, and it's Elizabeth Berkley.
Yeah, she's the one person who looks as though she's the living embodiment of Adderall. Just
I'm so excited. I'm so scared. She was on Dancing for the Stars. With the Stars?
With the Stars.
Yeah. Because she identifies as a dancer.
Okay. I feel bad.
I feel bad too, buddy.
I feel bad kind of shitting on her performance though, because it's not good. It's so spastic and
I think this was her going from Saved by the Bell, which was a big goofy sitcom, to this what was kind of sort of supposed to be a hard-hitting drama. She's not. We'll get to some of the other actresses that were up for the role.
Okay.
She doesn't have the weight to carry this lead.
Sure. Because I mean that is a hell of a tone shift for an actress too. Yeah. To be known for Saved by the Bell for as long as she had been at that point.
Especially that character. To jump into this, where it's all sleaze and nudity and horrible situations, that's a lot.
Who else was considered for this role?
Because I have the people that were considered for Nomi and the people that were considered for Crystal.
Okay.
So other actresses that were considered for Nomi include Pamela Anderson.
Okay.
Drew Barrymore was highly considered.
That's a weird choice too. I feel like you're running right into the same issue that Elizabeth Berkley actually had here. Just a very young actress kind of going from being literally a child actor in her case.
I think if they were considering Drew Barrymore, they might have been thinking a little closer to the All About Eve analog, because Eve in the film is a more innocent, or she comes across as a more innocent character, naive. Which I could see Eve being Drew Barrymore. If they were remake it for whatever reason, I could see her being cast in it.
Okay.
But I think she was considered enough to the point when Nomi is cast in the movie, and she takes over the makeup spot. They take down the name Drew.
Really? Mm-hmm. Oh, I missed that.
Yeah.
That's, wow.
I only know it because they pointed out in the documentary.
Huh.
Other people were Angelina Jolie, which I think actually probably would have been a really good choice.
She probably would have been a good choice, yeah.
I'm not familiar with Vanessa Marcil.
Me neither, I don't think.
Jenny McCarthy.
Okay.
Denise Richards.
Okay.
Which makes sense, considering what he cast her in his next movie.
Yeah, he sure did. There's an alternate universe out there where Denise Richards was cast in this and Elizabeth Berkley was cast in Starship Troopers. And
I think I hate that.
I'm not sure how to feel about it.
Yeah.
It's an alternate universe. We don't have to worry about it. It's fine.
Yeah. That's their problem. And then lastly, Charlize Theron. Which I think also, she was very young at the time, though.
Yeah, she would have been.
Not that I think she probably could have pulled it off.
I mean, with her acting chops, yeah. Probably.
Other actresses considered for Crystal were Madonna, Sharon Stone,
Okay.
Sean Young,
Hmm.
who I just saw a video today of her reading for Raiders of the Lost Ark alongside Tom Selleck, and it is fucking weird.
God, no. Oh, my brain.
Well, Tom Selleck was cast as Indiana Jones.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck happened there?
Magnum PI stepped in.
Oh, thank God.
They stepped in, and they're like, we just cast him to be the lead of our show.
Yeah.
We need him to shoot the pilot. So they went with Harrison Ford. And the weird thing is that, in a good way, I guess. I mean, it sucks for Tom Selleck.
It does suck for Tom Selleck, but also I can't picture him in that role.
It would have been a different tone.
Oh, very. Yeah.
There was a writer's strike or something that occurred.
Oh.
So they actually couldn't shoot the pilot anyway, so he could have done the movie.
God.
Yeah.
Oh, that sucks so much for Tom Selleck. Holy shit.
Man, I would like to look up a list of movies that Sean Young almost was cast in and then just didn't happen. Because I think she was supposed to be in both Batman and I think definitely Batman. I think she wanted to be in Batman Returns.
Fascinating. Okay.
Also Daryl Hannah, which I think she would have done
she probably would have done a
interesting
good job.
But it's hard for me to imagine her playing that kind of sadistic actress at that point in her career.
I suppose that's fair, but
and then Finola Hughes?
I'm not familiar.
Either. So those were the other options.
Mm-hmm.
Any other actors you'd like to talk about?
James. James is a character more so.
Okay. So let's hop down to story.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to hop down to story because I don't really want to shit on that actor specifically.
No, for the lines he had on page, he did fine.
I think the line deliveries were believable. The performance wasn't the problem with him.
Sorry, 1 second. There's one point I want to bring up with Elizabeth Berkley.
Oh, sure.
So her entire performance is basically turned up to 12.
Yeah.
And everybody else is most of the time 7 or 8.
Sure.
There was this famous comic book incident in universe where Henry Pym, slaps the Wasp. Now, for you people only familiar with the movies, I'm talking about the Kirk Douglas.
Michael Douglas.
Michael, yeah, not his dad.
Yes.
God.
This 140-year-old Hank Pym.
Weird. Michael Douglas, not that one. Or that one specifically. So the original Ant-Man was Hank Pym.
Yeah.
And Janet was the original Wasp. One point, they're both the Avengers, and Hank has a role back. He gets kicked out of the Avengers.
Right.
Because he fucked up. And the Wasp goes to console him, and he slaps her.
Okay.
And it's in Avengers 213. And it's considered a turning point for that character. A lot of people don't like him as a character anymore, to the point where I think in the Ultimates universe, he's killed off.
Holy shit.
They make him even more despicable in that because it was written by Mark Millar. And we won't get into that or we'll be here for 6 hours.
Sure. Yeah.
But the reason that happened was in the script, it was written as he goes to push her away and knocks her over, which is not good.
No.
But it's also not
it's also not
smacking her across the room.
Right.
The artist was Bob Hall. Great, good Silver Age artist. He was taught by John Buscema. I can't remember how to pronounce his name, but he's in the comic book world very well known.
Oh, okay.
Him and his brother. He taught Bob, and he taught Bob always go for the biggest action.
Oh, so he reinterpreted that visual as a slap because it's the bigger action.
Yes.
Huh.
So Elizabeth Berkley's performance to me feels like John came over to her and was like, always go for the biggest action.
Always go for the biggest action, yeah.
And she got Ant-Man killed.
It's a long way to go for that joke.
I've always just found that moment in comic book history really interesting. That
it is fascinating.
He's not. It's the same thing like Kirby would have done. Jack Kirby, not the slap, but he would have gone with the biggest visual movement,
the bigger pop.
Yeah. And then it destroyed that character.
That's wild.
Who was a founding member of the Avengers.
Yeah, that's astounding. Wonder how they're going to recreate that in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
Yeah, can't wait for him to
Anyway, so the character of James, I feel like they want us to root for this relationship for some reason, and I can't. There's nothing redeeming about their connection at any point. There's nothing that makes any sense about them being together. He claims to have written this dance number for her, even though like it's a real stalkery. It's just another extension of his fucking stalker behavior going into them starting to connect more. And then his entire career is basically derailed because he gets the other girl pregnant.
Fuck, I forgot about that.
Yeah, because she goes to see, like somebody leaves the flyer for his performance on the on her dressing stand, and she goes to check it out, and they get booed off the stage, and then she goes to catch up with James, and and Nomi finds out that he got Penny pregnant, and they're going to get married, and he's going to work in a grocery store. And it's like you have not only gone out of your way to like crush this person's dreams after making them a creepy, weird stalker guy, but you've done all these things to the one black male character in the entire fucking movie.
Yeah,
like you have gone out of your way to depict him as like both dangerous and incapable. Yeah, it's so infuriating. And then similarly, as we were mentioning, like, Molly is horrifically sexually assaulted.
Yeah, it's really bad.
She's one of only a small handful of black women in the movie. And
not that the other black woman's...
I'm getting there.
Okay.
And after she is then assaulted, she's just unconscious in a hospital bed for the entire rest of it. She never speaks another word. She's not heard from again, basically. Yeah. Like you said, like she's only there at that point for the benefit of Nomi's character.
Yeah.
And that's fucked up. That's deeply fucked up. And then like the only other prominent black woman we see, I forget the character's name, but she was one of the other dancers in Goddess. We see she has a I think reasonable reaction to a bunch of kids hanging out in this very adult environment.
Where's the fucking stage manager?
Where was the stage manager at that point? Seriously, given this woman has a right to see her kids and whatnot, but like, don't bring them back into that particular environment, especially when there are chimps running around. There are dangerous animals that are going to rip your children's faces off back there. And you're worried about this other woman telling them to shut the fuck up? Yeah. The film, the story's treatment of black people is terrible, is what I'm trying to say.
The only other movie, Verhoeven movie that I've watched recently is Starship Troopers, which also doesn't have a great record with people of color.
No.
I don't know if that's a running thing with him or not.
I want to say it's not. I don't remember it being an issue in RoboCop, but it's also been a while since I've watched RoboCop.
Yeah. Paul.
Which I don't know. I'm torn who to blame more. Do you blame the casting directors? Do you blame Verhoeven? Do you blame Eszterhas? Well,
if I'm ignoring the movie for when it came out, if I'm ignoring the culture for when it came out, and I'm trying to just make a movie that better represents the world that we live in, I think that James has a storyline that could work with a more skilled
writer. Yeah.
Because I like the idea of having a character stand there and say like, oh, you are a dancer, you identify as a dancer, you want to be a dancer. Well, then be a dancer.
Yeah.
I don't like the way he shits on strippers.
He is unnecessary stigma towards sex workers. Yeah. There's his weird as he says, pussy problem, which again is a real fucking wild choice to have the one black man in this entire movie express.
Because literally everyone in the movie apparently has a problem.
Yeah, just seriously.
Yeah.
Just, look at Kyle MacLachlan's character. Look at everybody.
But James is the only one that has enough self-awareness, I guess.
to just put it into words, yeah.
But even in among my fellow theater people, like there's jobs that are like, oh, this is a job in the art side of theater versus the commercial side.
Yeah.
I mean, shit, even for Ramming Speed, we did art versus
we
commercial.
literally shot a commercial.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
So I think James has or could be written to have a very strong, like, art only mindset.
Sure. But they didn't do that very well. Like, I think there's like the beginnings of that. There's the surface levels of that. But it's also mired in all this other problematic bullshit for no good reason.
They didn't have to make him a bouncer that met her by harassing her.
Yeah.
They could have developed a relationship there, even if it didn't have to be a romantic one.
No.
It could have been that she had an actual romantic, meaningful relationship with him that she chose to go the other direction with Kyle MacLachlan in order to further her career. That would have been more interesting to me. But I don't know. I mean, I do know a little bit about what Joe Eszterhas was going through at the time, but he did not handle he didn't handle it. I don't know. I was going to say like he didn't handle the people of color characters very well, but he didn't really handle any of the characters very well.
He really didn't handle any of them well. Yeah, it's just a little bit
unfortunate.
It's a little glaring.
Yes.
There.
I'm just glad that it was a very white person who was cast as Andrew Carver.
Yeah.
The whitest.
The absolute whitest, yes.
So now that we're at that scene, I want to read a quote from Joe Eszterhas from an interview that he did with Sharon Waxman for the Washington Post in an article titled Sleazy Writer that came out in 1997.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's just straight out titled Sleazy Writer.
Yeah. It's a pretty interesting... I'd talk more about it in part 2. But,
sure. But yeah, let's give us a taste here.
Quote, "Look, clearly we made mistakes," he says about Showgirls. A remarkable shift from his attitude of 2 years ago, which would have been when the movie came out.
Sure.
"Clearly, it was one of the biggest failures of our time. It failed commercially, critically. It failed on videotape. Lols.
Lol. Yes. That one did not bear out, sir. There's a lot of perverts.
Just give it a minute. You're going to be just fine financially. It failed internationally. In retrospect, part of it was Paul and I were coming off of Basic Instinct.
Yes.
Which defied the critics and was a huge success.
Sure.
Maybe there was a certain hubris involved. We can do what we can do, what we want to do, go as far as we want." He slips on a pair of black sunglasses and reaches for another cigarette. He's a chain smoker.
Of course. Yeah.
"That rape scene was a god-awful mistake. In retrospect, it was a terrible mistake. And musically, it was eminently forgettable. And casting mistakes were made."
Okay, so he openly acknowledges that the rape scene was a horrible thing to do.
Yeah.
Okay. I kudos for coming to the correct conclusion on that particular point. It's still there though.
Yeah.
It still exists. We all still have to watch that. What an interesting move though, to like stop for a moment, don sunglasses to like kind of shield yourself in that moment.
Yeah.
Like
light up another cig.
Yeah, like fascinating.
He will only get more fascinating.
Yeah, I'm excited to learn more.
We could talk about we could critique this movie for days. Let's go stop here.
Okay.
And ask the question.
It's been a while since we've had a movie that's actually choked you up on this question.
Does it deserve its accolades?
Yeah.
Oh my god, yes.
Oh my god, yes. Without question.
I mean, it came out the same year as Waterworld, and it still is like, no, this is obviously the worst.
Yeah.
The worst movie of the two.
I still think about Waterworld sometimes, and like how much I actually enjoyed a good deal of it, but...
I like that he drinks his own pee.
What a way to open a movie.
Yeah. You know what's weird is I actually really like the opening of this movie.
Yes,
the opening shot. I love the opening shot.
I was actually really taken with that opening shot. Like that was a gorgeous piece of cinematography. Thank you, Joost Vakano, Nudist Colony.
Was that him again?
That was him again. Yeah.
You know, I was just about to say, like, the movie was horrible, but I was never bored.
You know what? I agree with that. I was certainly never bored at any point of this film. And it was hard to watch at times.
Yes.
It was a lot. It was a mess. but it was never boring.
The camera moves so much. Thank God.
Really, yeah.
It moves so much.
Oh my God. Could you imagine if this was on sticks the entire fucking time?
There's one scene in the movie that is on sticks that drove me crazy. And it's when they're eating and talking about dog food.
Oh God.
It's just over the shoulder, which makes sense. It's just a talking
scene. But
you go from this like very dynamic, active camera to just like over the shoulder shot.
Especially considering that's supposed to be like a big like power struggle moment between the two of them, where like the dynamic of their relationship is like maybe changing a little bit, or being misled a little bit there. But
I forgot, in the documentary there's this one part where they're talking about that scene, and they're talking about how they're framing Crystal on, I think, the right, and they're framing Nomi on the left. They break the 180
They break
rule,
the 180 rule at one point. They do.
To show the switch, the power switch.
Yeah.
And I was like, I missed it because I was thinking about eating dog food. But
yeah, honestly, I think my brain was a little too fixated on the puppy chow the conversation there. But actually, and like, that was like a good breaking of the 180 rule. I liked it. Which, like, because usually whenever people do that, an alarm goes off in my head. Right. Like there's klaxons, like bad, no, you fucked up. Because usually it's a pretty easy thing to identify when it's done poorly. But like, that was actually a good thing.
Yeah. I don't want to take the time to explain the 180 rule. That's for another day.
Google's free. You guys, if you're listening to this, I'm pretty sure you guys know what the 180 rule is. I'm gonna have faith in the audience for a second.
Yeah. Why don't you tell those lovely fans of ours where they can find us?
I would love to do that. Thank you all for joining us here for part 1 of Showgirls. We hope you have enjoyed this so far and will join us for part 2 next week. If you have not already, please follow us on social media. You can find us on Facebook at DeRazzled Podcast, on Instagram at DeRazzled_podcast, on Twitter at DeRazzledPod, because it hasn't burned to the ground just yet, on TikTok at DeRazzled_podcast, I believe.
Yes.
And of course, you can email us at DeRazzledPodcast@gmail.com if you want to suggest things you'd like to see us cover in this season or future seasons, or if you'd like to see specific pieces of merch made out of stupid bullshit that we've said and have put up in our Redbubble store at DeRazzled Merch. As mentioned, please rate, review everywhere you possibly can. Those 5-star reviews go a long way to putting us up in those algorithms and getting us before more people's eyes and into more people's ears. We are on Spotify. We are on Apple Podcasts. We're on Good Pods, Stitcher, Podchaser, Podcast Addict. Wherever you listen to podcasts, you can find and rate us. And a ton of you have, and thank you so much. It really means a ton to us. You guys are incredible, and we put a ton of work into this show this year. According to our Spotify Wrap for podcasters, we've released like over 2,600 hours.
It's something ridiculous,
or something like 2,600 minutes or whatever of recording content this year, and y'all have kept up with every bit of it, and we love and appreciate you for that. So please keep that rolling. We're going to keep this rolling, and we'll be back next week. I
was preparing myself. I was like, don't miss it this time, Jack. Where we'll be sure to razzle dazzle you.